what you described was the working hours at that place.
នៅក្បែរកន្លែងយន្ត
So the work site at Tropang Chray was close to where we were sleeping.
My question was, can you confirm that the schedule I just mentioned corresponds indeed to that period?
Answer, yes, it did.
After, in the same record, the same ERN in Khmer and in French, and correction, in French and in English, and in Khmer it is 00582095. So you said that you change working station in February, and you said that as of February the working conditions became harsher and that you had to start working at 3 a.m. and with the same schedule that you explained to us earlier on. And then you said on the following page, ERN in French 00967208, English 00940142, Khmer 00582095. And this is what you said, and you specified that there was indeed a change. We started work from 5 a.m. or 5:30 a.m. if it was still dark until 11 a.m. Then we took a rest until 1 p.m. and sometimes until 2 p.m. and we resumed work until 5 p.m. After that we worked from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. before we returned to our shacks. End of quote. So my question is, does this jog your memory, and do you remember that when it got dark you would wake up at a different time?
Answer, when we worked in a far area we had to wake up very early in the morning. If we overslept, we could not go in time. The whistle would be blown at 3 a.m. and later the whistle would be blown at 4 a.m. because if it was blown at 3 a.m. and we went to our workplace after that time, it was too early. And the third whistle was blown for everyone to depart our sleeping quarters.
But you did not answer my question specifically. My question was, what you said in this record, and I quote again, we started work from 5 a.m. or 5:30 a.m. if it was still dark. Do you remember having said that? And does that correspond to what happened? That is to say, if it was still dark, would you leave later? That was my question.
Answer, I think I said 4 a.m., not 4:30.
So you're telling us that there is a mistake here in this statement?
ពួកសរសេរយូរហើយ
Answer. I gave that statement long time ago. President, please hold on. Madam Civil Party, you may now proceed. International Deputy Co-Prosecutor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't know if this is an issue of there being difference in how this document was translated into French. In English, the preceding paragraph talks about the time the whistle was blown for them to wake up. This paragraph talks about the time they started work. Counsel is equating the two. I don't. In English, they're different. She's talking about different things. I don't know whether it's a problem in how it was translated into French, but I think the record should reflect that.
In French, there is no reference to the whistle being blown, but it said that if it was still dark at 5 o'clock, people would leave at 5:30. So my question was would people leave a half hour later, that is to say at 5:30, if it was still dark?
Please hold on. Civil Party, you may now proceed.
And that's the reason for my objection, is that I can't tell you what the Khmer says. I can tell you in English it doesn't say that they left at 5:30. It says that was the start time where they would start work. So they'd have to be at the work site by either 5 or 5:30, depending on the time of year.
Je demande à mon...
I'm going to ask my colleague to check this. Check the Khmer. And then I will move on to another line of questioning, and I'll get back to this later. My colleague confirms that in Khmer it is written 5:30. So I will close this line of questioning. In Khmer, apparently, there is no problem. You apparently said that people would leave for work at 5:30. Is that the case or not?
Answer. When we were working close to the pagoda, we started work at 5:30. But later, our workstation was far from our sleeping quarter, so we had to go to work at 4 a.m. That's what I stated. And during that time, it was too dark at 4 a.m., so we were asked and told to go to work at 4:30 a.m. instead.
Regarding another point, this morning, I believe you told my colleague from the Nunchea team that you never heard any announcements regarding the usage of explosives to blow up the rocks. So did I understand correctly when you said that you didn't hear any announcements before they started using explosives?
ចាស់មែន
Answer. There was no announcement over the loudspeaker, and we were not told to step back when explosive was used. Some worker was sleeping and, taking a rest, and when they heard the explosion, they would run for shelter.
You have just told us that you were asked to step back when they were going to use explosives. Who told you to step back?
Answer. No one told us. We realized and heard the explosion, and only when we heard the explosion or when we saw the fires at the explosion area, we would run. Some people were hit by the fragments of the rock.
Je vous pose des
I'm putting questions to you with regard to this topic because we heard two witnesses before you. The first, Pek Sokka, this was on the 21st of May, and he was questioned with regard to a statement he had provided before, and this is what he said. In his statement, it's a little bit before or a little bit after 11:29 and 32 seconds on the 21st of May, and in his statement he said he heard on the loudspeakers that the compatriots were told to be careful because they were going to use explosives in order to extract rocks. End of quote. And this was the question that was put to him. Was this kind of security message frequently broadcast on the loudspeakers on the worksite? And he answered yes. Each time before there was going to be an explosion, they made this kind of broadcast on the loudspeakers. So does this ring a bell or not at all?
Answer. Who is this individual in my area? I have never heard of any broadcast over the loudspeaker. I mean at Barai district.
Et
And another witness, Miss Miliego, on the 26th of May 2015, said a little bit after 2 o'clock in 24 minutes, and the question that was put to her was the following. Do you remember when they were going to use explosives, that there were security messages broadcast on the loudspeakers to warn the workers? And her answer was yes. When they were going to use explosives in order to break the rock, the workers had to step back. They were forbidden to come close so that they wouldn't be hit with the shards. End of quote. And then she continues a little bit further by saying that I simply saw them chase people away from that place. And the following question was put, chased people away from which place? And then she answered, they would chase people away from the place where they were going to use explosives to break the rock. They would make sure that the people would not be hit by fragments. Once the explosives were used, the workers could get back to work. End of quote. So my question is the following. If you did not hear these kinds of security messages on the loudspeakers, did you ever witness the fact that people were asked to step away from the area where they were going to use explosives?
នៅខាងខ្ញុំ
Answer. For my group, I could see that they burned the explosive, and when we saw that we would go away, there was no broadcast or announcement concerning explosive was used.
vous venez de
You just told us, corrects the interpreter, with regard to my group. So does this mean that you do not know what was going on in the other units?
ចា
Answer. I do not know about other units or groups. I know only what happened in my group in Barai district.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. President, I have no further questions. I will stop here, and my colleague also has no further questions, so I think we can stop.
President, Madam Hun Sethani, the chamber told you already that at the end your testimony you can make a victim's impact statement. And concerning the crimes which are alleged against two accused and harm inflicted upon you during democratic Cambodia, resulting in your civil party application to claim collective and moral reparations for physical, material or mental injuries as direct consequences of those crimes. You may proceed. Civil party. The injuries which was inflicted upon me was that I used to live in a happy life with my family. When the regime came into power, we lost everything. We lost what we had in the previous time. I lost my house, belongings and property. I lost my parents, siblings. I live alone. I lost everything, as I said. I underwent sufferings. I am so lonely, and for those who are so lonely as me, they understand my situation. Some people who do not understand my situation, they may say, what's the point of giving your statement? The bad experience seems to be news to me when I think of what happened. I have learned now the bad experience and sufferings in my life. Why I had to go through this bad experience? How those people control and lead their countries? Are they pity on Khmer people? Do you know the difficulty they have experienced? We used to have our own property and belongings to use, but now some of us lost almost everything. You can imagine how difficult our life is at the moment. I am so terrified. I have PTSD and trauma. I lived my life with no freedom and rights in that period. I would like to tell the court that I do not want the recurrence of this regime again. I have suffered much in my life. Nothing can compare. I am trying my best to live my life at the moment. The innocents who were working very hard were killed. They were killed because of words came out of their mouths. If they committed wrongdoings, they would be taken away. Persecutions happen on them. What was the point of living their lives? They were persecuted. People experience a separation from families. Parents were separated from children. What was the situation? What was the society in that period? If you realize what happened in that period, please do not let such things happen again in the society. I have a few questions. Am I allowed, Mr. President? President, yes, you can have a few questions, but it has to, the question needs to go through the President of the Chamber. You may now proceed. Civil party. I would like to ask my question as follows. Are you responsible for the killing of human beings? And how could you be responsible for persecution and killings of victims in your period? Do you recognize and admit your mistakes? Do you admit your acts in that period? These are the questions I have for them, President. The Chamber wishes to inform Madame Hun Setani that after ascertaining the position of both accused on 8 January 2015 regarding the exercise of the right to remain silent, the Chamber notes that the two accused maintain their express positions unless and until such time as the Chamber is expressly informed otherwise by the co-accused or their counsels. It is therefore incumbent upon them to inform the Chamber in a timely and efficient manner should the accused resolve to waive the right to remain silent and be willing to respond to the questions by the bench or relevant parties at any stage of the proceedings. As of today, the Chamber is not informed that the co-accused have changed their express position and thus agreed to provide their responses to questions.
President, the Chamber is grateful of your presence, time, and testimony, Madame Hun Satani, during the last 2 days, as well as the expression of your suffering and harms inflicted upon you during the Democratic Cambodia regime. Your testimony is now concluded, and you are no longer required to be present in the courtroom, and the Chamber wishes you a safe journey back home, and all the very best to you. And court officer, please assist the civil party to make necessary transportation arrangement in collaboration with the WISU for her to return to her residence. And the Chamber once again thank you, Madam TPO staff. However, you are still required to be present in order to assist the next civil party, that is through TCCP 230. And court officer, please usher the civil party into the courtroom. President, good afternoon, Madam Civil Party. What is your name? Civil Party, my name is Unron. President, thank you, Madam Unron. And when were you born? I was born on the 24th April 1953. President, thank you. And Madam Unron, where were you born? Answer, I was born at Tariam Village, Tabang Commune, Kampong Swai District, Kampong Thom Province. Question, and where is your current address? Answer, it is still at the same place that is in Tariam Village, Tabang Commune. Question, what is your current occupation? Answer, I am a rice farmer. Question, what are the names of your parents? Toj Niang is my father and Chai Lee is my mother. Question, and what is your husband's name and how many children do you have? Lanvuti is my husband. Question, and how many children do you have? Answer, we have 2 children. President, Madam Unron, towards the end of your testimony as a civil party, you will be given an opportunity to make a victim's impact statement concerning the crimes which are alleged to happen, and that will happen towards the end of your testimony if you wish to do so. And pursuant to Rule 91 of the ECCC internal rules, the Chamber hands the floor first to the elite co-lawyers for civil parties. And the combined time for the elite co-lawyers and the co-prosecutors are 2 sessions. You may proceed.
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll give the floor to my colleague, Mrs. Swavanari Mok.
President, yes, the Chamber allows that, and lawyer for civil parties, you may proceed. Lawyer Swavanari, thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Mr. President, Your Honors, and good afternoon, Madam Civil Party Unron. I have some questions for you, and if my questions are unclear or you do not understand, please let me know so I can reformulate it. Can you first tell the court where were you on 17 April 1975? Answer, I was living in Kampong Thom province with my uncle. Then we were evacuated to Tang Krasang, and later on we were returned back to Tariam village. Question, while you were living in Tariam village, were you assigned into any group or a unit? Answer, at that time at the village, no group or unit were established yet. I worked in the rice field in the village with my family, and I did not go to work elsewhere. Question, After you worked in a rice field, transplanting rice seedlings or pulling out rice seedlings, what else were you assigned to do? Answer. I was assigned to a sector mobile unit at Kadai San Pagoda, and I worked there for a period of time which I cannot recall exactly. Then I was assigned to transplant the rice seedlings, and during the flooding season, as we could not work in a rice field anymore, we were sent to Sansan Pagoda to rest there for a while. Later on, I was assigned to work at the first Tinjuri Dam work site. And while I was working at the Kadaisan Pagoda, as we could no longer pull out rice seedlings due to the flood, I was sent in a big unit to the first January Dam work site, and we were transported by a vehicle. But due to the thickness of the forest, the vehicle could not go through. Then we had to carry our bag and be on foot. We arrived at around 5 to 6 p.m. and we rested there without any proper shelter. Next day, we were instructed to clear the forest, and it took us about 2 months to completely clear the forest. Then units were divided, and some groups were divided within the unit, and land plots were measured and assigned to members of the groups and the units respectively. Question, and allow me to stop you here before I put question to you in relation to the first January Dam work site. And before you were sent to the dam work site, you said that you were assigned to a sector mobile unit. And you said that your big unit was further subdivided into smaller units. Can you tell the total number of members in the big mobile unit, and what was the name of that unit chief? Answer. The big unit constituted of 100 members. Then it was subdivided into 3 small units comprising of 30 members each. Chong was chief of the big unit, and Chiang and Seun were chiefs. Allow me to apologize. It was Nai and Chiang who were chiefs of the small units. Question. A while ago, you said your sector mobile unit was assigned to work at the first January Dam work site. And who actually made that assignment to your unit? Answer. I did not know who made that assignment. The only thing I know that we were told by our unit chief that we had to pack our belonging and place it in a backpack, and we had to travel to work at the first January Dam work site. Question. Could you refuse not to go? Answer. No. We could not, and of course we dare not challenge that instruction. It simply meant we had to go. Question. When you were assigned to work at the first January Dam work site, can you recall the exact date? And if not, what season was it when you were assigned to work there? Answer. I know that we left day sign when the rice was already ripe, but we did not harvest it yet. Then we worked at the first January dam work site until the flood arrived and we could no longer work there. Then we were assigned to return. As for the date or the month, I cannot recall it. Question. So your mobile group arrived at a location where shelters were built and you were allowed to rest. Can you tell us the number of the shelters and how far were those sleeping quarters away from the work site? Answer. The shelters where we rested were about 500 to 600 meters from the actual dam work site. The building, the shelters were made of wood, and the floor, the sleeping floor, was made of wood as well. And some of us had mats to sleep on, while others did not. So sometimes we found a piece of cloth to lay down and slept on. And it was a long building, the building that I slept in, and we slept in 2 rows, feet to feet, and there was a footpath in between. Question. Were the shelters already built upon your arrival? And what was the roof made of? Was it leaking when it rained? Answer. It made out of leaves. There were no walls. And when it rained, the rain dropped would come through, and then our heads would be wet, since there were no walls on the side of the building. Question. When you and your colleagues were resting in that building, were you provided with, say, a mosquito net? Answer. There was no mosquito net. There was no blanket. I myself only had an old scarf, and it was not large enough to cover my body. Question. You said that area was a thick forest that the vehicle could not go through. That's why you had to be on foot. So can you tell us, were there a lot of mosquitoes at night or insects? Answer. There were mosquitoes, but we were told to pile up the leaves and burn it in order to chase away or to keep the mosquitoes away. Question. And while you were working at the dam work site, did you work at only one location, or were you relocated to work at various sites within the dam construction site? Answer. We worked only at one location, although it was moving away further and further as the work progressed. I mean, further away from our sleeping quarter. Question. And during the time that you worked at the first Evidentiary dam work site, you were assigned to work from one location, and progressively it kept moving away from your sleeping quarter. And you also said that there was big rain resulted in flood, and you could no longer work and were sent to the village. How far did the work progress upon the time that you could no longer work due to flood? Our answer, our big mobile unit started working from near where we slept, and we stopped when the work progressed for about 1 kilometer long. So when the water rose and we could no longer work, we were sent to return and work at Kadai Sand and then at Balang. Question. Let me return to the first Evidentiary dam work site. What kind of work was assigned to you, and what was the work ration, and who actually made that assignment? Answer. It was the big unit chief who divided the land plots given to the small unit chiefs, and then the small mobile chiefs would assign to the members, and we were assigned a plot of 4 cubic meters to complete, and we would take turn to dig the ground and to carry the earth. And if we could not complete the work quota, then the food ration would be deprived. For that reason, we tried our best. And that was even worse during the rainy season, as the slope was slippery, and sometimes we had to make a makeshift ladder in order to walk up the embankment of the dam. Question. When you were asked to dig the ground, what was the land or the soil condition? Was it purely soil or dirt, or was it also a mixture of soil and rock? Answer, no, it was purely dirt. There was no rock. Question. Regarding working hours, can you tell the chamber the working hours? That is, when the whistle was blown to awaken you, and when you started actual work, and when you rested, and was there any work to be done at night? Answer. At 4:30 in the morning, of course, this is just an estimate, as we did not have a watch or a clock to look at. At that time, a rooster sang and a whistle was blown, so we woke up, washed our face, and by dawn we walked. So actually, after a whistle was blown, we would queue up, and then there was a head count. Then we would go to the work site and started working until 11 when we rested for gruel. Then we had to return to the sleeping quarter to eat the gruel, and my group was the last to arrive. And then we resumed working again and continued until 5:30 in the afternoon, and we ate the gruel again. If there was a meeting, that is a livelihood meeting, we would attend the meeting, and at night time we were assigned each a 2 cubic meter of work to complete. And if we could not complete the work quota of the 2 cubic meter, in the morning we had to be aware that we had to start working early in order to complete the remaining work and to start the new work quota again. And if we fail to reach the work quota, we would be criticized. And if that is the case, then we usually would wake another one or our colleagues up and started working by ourselves at 4 o'clock in the morning. Question. You said at about 4:30, when the rooster sang, a whistle was blown, you lined up, there was a head count, and then you went to the work site. Did you have to start working immediately, or was there a set hour that you had to comment working at the work site? Answer. If we arrived at the work site a bit early and it was still rather early, we had to wait a little bit until we could see one another clearly before we started working. Lawyer for Civil Party, thank you, Madam Civil Party. And Mr. President, I noticed that it is already 4 and maybe it is convenient time for an adjournment. President, thank you, Lawyer for Civil Parties. Today's hearing has come to an adjournment, and we will adjourn now and resume tomorrow, that is Thursday, 28 May 2015, commencing from 9 o'clock in the morning. Tomorrow, the Chamber will continue to hear the remainder testimony of the Civil Party Un Ron. And Madam Un Ron, the Chamber would like to thank you for your testimony. However, it is not yet concluded. Thus, you are invited to return to this chamber again tomorrow to continue your testimony. Court officer, please assist the civil party in collaboration with Wisu to have her return to her place of stay and have her return to testify tomorrow in this courtroom before 9 o'clock. And Madam Redient, TPO staff, the Chamber is grateful of your assistance, and once again you are invited to return tomorrow to assist this civil party. And the testimony will commence at 9 o'clock in the morning. Security personnel are instructed to take the two accused, Nuon Chea and Kee Sampon, back to the detention facility and have them return to attend the proceedings tomorrow before 9 o'clock. The court is now adjourned.